It is tier list time. The 6v6 tier list for this season is here. And massive disclaimer on two things. First of all, this is always done in like a podcast like format. I will just be putting the heroes into the list over here, and you are more than welcome to watch it if for some reason you find it entertaining. Or because it's in a podcast like format, you can have it running in the background while you do something else like completely unnecessary, like playing ranked in Overwatch and going on a losing streak. Feel free to throw me in the background screaming about power levels of heroes in 6v6. And now, second disclaimer, guys, I'm going to keep it very real. The reason this tier list was a little bit delayed was because it is so hard to place these heroes in 6v6 simply because the matchmaking in 6v6 is so all over the place. Like, I showed some of my, like, stuff on Twitter lately where my 5v5 rank grind, the matchmaking, Q range, or like, it's always been wide, right? I started to have games in 6v6 where I had a gold playing all the way up with masters, and it was actually a proper gold player. So it's very difficult. None of the games felt like they had a proper close queue, and I felt like Blizzard is maybe doing this on purpose, simply to help alleviate sometimes, with the queue time issues. So it's a bit difficult. Please take a little bit of it with a pinch of salt. As always, these are subject to my opinion. You are more than welcome to disagree and share your opinions down below, as long as you do it in a civilized and humane fashion. We're not going to act like animals and go after each other for no reason. This is like video game pixels we're talking about. It's never that deep. With that being said, sorry for the long ass intro. Getting straight into it. Number one, starting us off, is Ana. Ana is surprisingly super good in 6v6, but because of there being an additional resource going around, usually a lot of the comps that are being played are are in the 6v6 mode is 2-2-2. I'm going to consider the fact that there is a second tank. Well, now when you pair, let's say you're running Ana into a comp like Zarya, there's a Diva present in that comp, a Kiriko. There's a lot of things that can hinder the way Ana uses her nade aggressively and forces Ana to play a lot more reserved for her team, using that Bionade for herself and her team. And that doesn't mean you cannot play Ana aggressive. No, it means like Ana's playstyle sees a dynamic shift in how 5v5 and 6v6 works. And that's okay, because Ana, we were used to her playing like this back in the day in the 6v6 era as well. So Ana, I think she's a solid A to S tier character. I'm not fully sure if I want to put her in S tier, because I feel like there's a lot of mitigation with two tanks coming in that can nullify the impact of the nade. However, yeah, honestly, that's a pretty good justification. Like, if there was a tier, maybe in S or A, I would probably throw Ana down there. But however, like Nano Boost is so much more stronger because tanks have like relatively lower HP bars. It's so much easier for the people you nano to make plays. So I will just like maybe push Ana to S tier for the sake of having her in S tier for once, right? So actually, she's been a pretty solid pick. But I don't know. I think in 6v6 she has a little bit more impact, and she also does a lot more healing because she has like the two tanks to farm her healing stats off of. It's really not like Ana is like almost a completely different character the way you play her in 5v5. Honestly, personally, I kind of prefer her in 6v6. I can't deny that it is nice the way you can play aggressive Honor on 5v5, but I do personally like her in 6v6. Moving on from Ana, we have Ashe. Ashe is a pretty solid A tier character. Very, very strong, very oppressive in the right hands. And again, with the tank pools being much lower, it's much easier for Ashe to carry fights and turn fights around. I think Ashe will always be a very solid A tier pick. She's got a lot more competition now that is much stronger than her without the help from the Mercy. So Ashe with Mercy is S. Ashe without Mercy is A tier. I think that's okay. Ashe is a hit scan character that does require, a proper amount of skill and input going into her. Yes, the Mercy version of playing into Ashe is always annoying and it sucks. And you could argue that there's a little bit less skill involved in that. However, I do always respect Ashe players, and honestly, at least in my opinion, even in 5v5 and 6v6, I felt like this season I've had a lot of tools to deal with her. And by any chance, if you're still struggling into the Ashe matchup, please just ask me and I'll give you some advice in the comments down below. There's a lot of great characters into her this season. You have Genji, Freya, Hans is really not that bad. Could use a lot more help, but he's definitely working. Mei is kind of finally back, so Mei is a very annoying matchup for Ashe as well, depending on circumstances. But and then Sojourn. So that's the thing. Moving on to our next character, it is a support again. Baptiste flying himself into the S tier list. Yes, while I might have been a bit here and there on Bap when it comes to 5v5, even though I think he's very strong, I think in 6v6 Bap is absurdly powerful. powerful. Again, having 2 tanks to farm your AoE healing off of, he's building ult super fast. He's very good at shredding tanks as well. It can sometimes actually feel difficult to contest a BAP on some tanks that lack the armor, and a good BAP is very, very nice to have on your team because he's pretty much substituting himself in as a third or fourth 3PS depending on the comp, and he can bring a lot of high sustainability to the composition, and it just, he's allowed to play a lot more aggressive. Like, I actually feel like BAP doesn't get that opportunity in 5v5 as much as he does in 6v6, which is just kind of odd, right? Maybe it's just me and my personal experience, but it is what it is, right? Bastion. Bastion's definitely still a B tier character. He's been a very awkward one. Despite there being 2 tanks for him to farm, he's really not that good into 2 tanks when their abilities are timed right and they can bombard him. This was also a weakness for Bastion back in original 6v6 era, so I'm a fan of that. I think Bastion's okay as a B tier character. I don't think he's overly strong. I don't think he's overly bad. I think he has a little place in the game where he excels, and usually in the hands of a specialist, he'll do really well. But there's more than enough things in the game now that kind of dumpster on Bastion, so that's why B tier will always be the okay tier. A is strong, S is OP or very strong, and then C and D are like, we'll get there when we get to them. So moving on over to Brigitte, I think Brigitte is an A tier pick, very solid character. She, kind of plays the same playstyle she's always played with the Ana. You can even play her with some of the BAP, and even with Kiriko if you really need to. I will say though that when you get 1 or 2 picks, you can definitely play Brigitte a lot more aggressive than what you are doing in 5v5, just because like there's no super tank and it's much easier for you to, if you're smarter, you can definitely take the duel depending on the tank. However, against brawl tanks, please maintain your distance still, because out of nowhere they can turn shit around on you. She has great healing potential, great perks I think as well, and Rally is still a very super powered ultimate, so Brigitte, you can never go wrong with her. Of course, she excels in the best composition for herself is with Ana, and she's really good with dive, but at least what I felt in 6v6, because of the smaller tank health pool, so there's less amount of healing for her to be done to really keep the tank up. I felt like even in personal experience when I played Brick, I thought it was surprisingly impactful to play Brigitte, with the smaller health boost for tank, because it's easier to heal it up, right? So felt like I could like help turn the fights around much better. She's a pretty solid A and A tier pick in both 5v5 6v6. That's basically what I'm trying to say. Cassidy, again, A tier. I actually think Cass is very good. Feel like people are kind of sleeping on him, but again, like in terms of poke damage characters, there's just so much in the game right now that it's really hard to nail down which poke character you want to play. Definitely there's 2 of them that stand out like sore thumbs. One is a hit scan, one is a projectile. We'll get to both those little ladies in just a few moments from now, but I think Ash is pretty Cass and Ash and Cass, pretty great ship if you ask me. Yeah, but whatever. Anyways, so with that being said, Cassidy is pretty solid all-around character. Really not much else to say about him. And moving on to Doomfist, I think Doomfist is very strong. And the survivability that he brings, the perks are pretty awesome. We've talked about Doomfist in 5v5 being near server admin level. With hero bans, again, if you strategically ban out the characters that can counter you, so you get rid of the Sombra. Cassidy's not that bad. Get rid of that Sombra, you get rid of that Roadhog, and Doom can do some serious damage in that lobby. So, definitely a hero to keep your eye on. Doomfist, I personally think he's S tier in 6v6, and also with the smaller health pools, it makes his empowered punches a lot more impactful for you and your other tank to follow up when the empowered punch goes through. I would also argue Doom is one of the tanks that is actually very flexible. You can play him in the brawl, dive, and you can even like play him some flexible like half comp, like okay, where we have got the Sigma sitting with our poke, and then Doom is kind of flanking in and out, a little bit reminiscent of Marvel Rivals' dive comp with Magneto sitting with the front line and Venom kind of swinging in and out. So that's kind of what I see Doomfist as. He's very, very interesting. D.Va, S tier character. I think D.Va's S tier both in 5v5 and 6v6. You just need the right person playing D.Va. If you have the right pilot on D.Va, D.Va is so damn good. And if you just have some idiot playing D.Va, then it is what it is. D.Va in 6v6 puts a lot more emphasis on slowing the game down and peeling for her teammates a lot more. A lot of people actually take D.Va the opposite direction, where they try to play even more aggressive with her and they just like insta demank themselves, and that's just not how you're meant to play D.Va. D.Va is kind of a slow pull back and then suddenly release the slingshot into the enemy team, and out of nowhere she just suddenly takes over games. So there's a lot of D.Va players out there that I've seen that do understand that. I'm also a D.Va player myself, and I understand that, and whenever I play the character, honestly, if you know how to play D.Va well, I really struggle to see like her ever struggling at all. And of course, with hero bans, if you know you're gonna want to play D.Va, let's say on a map like Dorado, you just get that Zarya out, and my goodness, the server adminning you can do if you're a good D.Va player is insane. Moving on over to 𝐒𝐒, I think 𝐒𝐒 is still pretty solid A-tier character, has her weaknesses, has her strengths, not much more to say. We've been repeating the same points for 𝐒𝐒 for a while now, so I don't think I need to dig deeper into her. Genji, pretty same thing. Think, again, A-tier character, he has his strengths, he has his weaknesses. Not the preferred playstyle that a lot of us quote-unquote Genji mains do want, but he is still very good, and the fact that he can now contest tanks, at least I can safely say is that there was a lot of moments in 6v6 where I feel like I can actually solo carry the game. Even a lot of my unavailable games, I actually turned them around and won. So Genji, like, he's in a pretty good spot. Guys, I know a lot of us want Genji to go in a different direction, but unfortunately the balance team is extremely stubborn about taking him the route that we want. But the hero's at least good enough to where you can play him and have a more stronger impact in the game, right? So again, it would be nice if we could go back to the dueling days. I might cover this in a lengthy video. Like I said, it is coming up. It's going to be called Genji Brawl or Dive or something like that, and I will basically talk about why, even though Genji's weaker than where he was in Overwatch 1, he is in a stronger place in the game right now. And again, while it's not what we Genji mains do want for him, because we all embrace the combo based high risk, high reward playstyle, it's okay. It could always be worse. It could be Hanzo. Speaking of Hanzo, he's next. Hanzo's B tier, honestly. He has a lot of moments where he can definitely be good, but the character just, he weirdly enough against two tanks, he'll actually get outpaced unless you're playing on like really tight choke maps. So if you're playing maps like Lijiang Control Center, where Storm Arrow can really come alive, then Hanzo is a very strong character that I would even argue goes to A tier, because Hanzo finally being able to contest the tanks' position is actually really nice. However, like, overall neutral gameplay is okay. Like, he's just like Bastion, where it's like, hey, if you can make it work, great. If you can't, then it is what it is. There's better options, right? And we'll get to them soon. Junkrat Queen, I actually think she's an S tier character. She's again, Junkrat Queen is just like D.Va. I personally think it's the pilot, not the plane. If the pilot is smart, knows what they're doing, they can make the character work in like 90% circumstances. I've seen some crazy Junkrat Queens. And again, guys, like I said, don't forget the disclaimer from early in the video. The ranks are all over the place. The matchmaking quality is all over the place. But I've played against and with enough Junkrat Queens to where I'm a believer, where I'm like, okay, Queen is actually pretty strong. Commanding shot enabling her and her other brawl tank to run it down mid, whether it's a Ramatra or Reinhardt or whatever. It's been looking pretty damn good. She even works really well with the Mauga and even what's his face Hazard. So I don't know, pretty strong character. I could be wrong with Junkrat Queen. Maybe she's A tier, maybe not on the same level as these guys, because she's a little bit more mechanically intensive to really pop off. So maybe I'll put her down in A tier, but I will say she's borderline, like almost S tier and 66. Again, this is from my experience. Maybe I'm just getting really lucky with the Junkrat Queen plays that I've got, but I don't think she's that bad. I'm gonna keep it very real. I think she's actually very strong, and she's already S tier in Stadium. We also have a Stadium tier list coming up very soon, so keep your eyes out for that. Junkrat is very strong, to the point that I'm this close to putting him in A tier. You know what? I will push it. I will put him in A tier. Junkrat's strength back in original 6v6 days was the fact, like, he was an amazing tank buster, right? And a lot of like that feeling that Junkrat players had back in the day when they dominated tanks in 6v6. Again, this is we're not talking about super pro or super high elo. We're talking about the general game, like the 90% of the game, right? You can play Junkrat at the 90% of the game level until you reach like very high, like Masters 1 or low GM, and then Junkrat begins to fall off a little bit, right? But up until then, there was a lot of really good one tricks that could make Junkrat work very well, and Junkrat's in a pretty strong spot. He has very powerful breakpoints. He interacts really well with armor, and honestly, anytime I picked him up and I ran him down mid, like even if I just played the character at the skill floor, I just absolutely demolished tanks. He's very good at forcing resources. He's very good at also getting rid of resources as quickly as possible. Ryan Shield, Ramatra Barrier, etc. Like, there's so much that Junkrat brings to the table that I think he doesn't have this like benefit in 5v5, because in 5v5, because the game's more open, it's easier for somebody else to take an angle onto your Junkrat and delete him. But in 6v6, because you have the second tank, and like, again, like the game style and everything is adjusted to kind of play in a little bit more deathball like style, Junkrat punishes deathball playstyles, and also he really excels when he has that second tank that can look out for him, peel with him, and you also play in between or with your tank. So like Junkrat, for me personally, in my experience, he's really come alive. So I can't even put him down in B tier, in my opinion. There's just so many places where I made him work where I was like, wow, this feels pretty damn good. Like, even if I was just farming tanks. I got a Riptide out of that, steamroll that fight, rinse and repeat the process. It was very, very nice to get that value. So, you know, he's pretty damn strong. I can't lie. I know there might be some Junkrat players out there that maybe might not want to hear that. Their experience might be a little bit different. That's perfectly fine and justified. But I don't sugarcoat it. I call it like it is. If I think a hero's strong in a format, in a mode, I'm gonna call it like it is. And I think Junkrat's a pretty damn strong character in 6v6. And trying to like push that away or something is a little bit awkward. I'm not gonna lie. Now he does have bad matchups. There's no denying it. There's definitely a lot of strong matchups right now. But like I said, that second tank, if you have a good off tank, a good main tank, Junkrat will quietly take over the lobby without the other tanks and enemy realizing what's going on. Because again, at that point, I'm assuming you're smart and you know how to play with the two tanks, and you're not like some weird off-angling Junkrat who gets caught by the enemy Freya and Sojourn and then complains that, oh my god, my hero's bad. It's like, seriously, learn how to play with your tanks if you're Junkrat. You will get infinite value, trust me. At least up until like high masters, you can make this shit work. Okay, so that's just like in my experience, and also on the stronger maps. That is another disclaimer, but definitely I could play Junkrat in a lot more of the maps where even Junkrat's not good, because again, having those two tanks, having those two health pools that are not that big, but those hitboxes are very big, and they're taking that spam just so much. Like the thing with Junkrat is the value that can come out at the skill floor. You know, like forget the dueling, it's the poke, the sheer pressure that they can bring in. You can set up your own tanks with so much success. So keep, you know, just in my opinion, keep an eye on Junkrat. He's very strong. So moving on over to 𝐒𝐿𝐻, I think 𝐒𝐿𝐻's pretty solid, A tier character. There's going to be a lot of characters in A tier. The 25% heal reduction does hurt her. Her perks do help her a little bit. She still has the annoying Suzu and the, you know, double teleport. But outside of that, she's actually fairly okay. Again, she's a very annoying character to fight, but compared to like other stuff nowadays in the game, like, you know, there's worse problems to worry about than a 𝐒𝐿𝐻 nowadays. Although I would still really like it if we could increase her hitbox just a little bit, because my goodness, is she skinny as hell. But outside of that, I think she's a solid A tier character. You can pretty much play 𝐒𝐿𝐻 anywhere into any comp against literally anything. They future-proofed the crap out of this character. She's got solid DPS and sustain, takes duels much better with tanks. The Suzu, need I say more, a great ultimate, very solid character. For now and for the years to come, I don't really see her dropping out of A tier anytime soon, unless there's an aggressive shift into how damage and healing works. So with that being said, Lucio, again, I think he's a nearly S tier character, but I think he becomes S tier around the higher levels of play. If you have a Lucio player that knows how to play Lucio, knows how to use the wall ride mechanics, understands how to really enable your tanks, how to set up your tanks for success by flying into the enemy tanks backline, behind the enemy tanks, booping an enemy tank forward to allow for a kill for your tank and then to walk in with speed boost. There's so much potential for Lucio to skyrocket and take over a game. And again, just with the fact that tanks are a lot more weaker, Lucio's ability to duel tanks is very, very good, especially if you're playing against tanks that can't reach you. There's not much they can do about the poke damage you throw out, so that has been kind of, you know, buffed and nerfed here and there, but he's in a pretty solid spot. I don't know if I want to put him in S tier. I'm still debating about it, but maybe A tier, right? I think A tier is a pretty safe spot. There's very few characters that are like sticking out like, oh wow, this one is very powerful, right? So maybe I'll put him in A tier. I'm always hesitant about S tier. Mei, okay, again, I think A tier. I think she's borderline S tier in 5v5, but she's very strong in 6v6. When you can enable those two guys, like, do we remember Brawl meta from 6v6? Like, do we remember when Mei and Reaper and two tanks stranded down mid and it was just a budget goats comp? Did we forget how Mei used to play with the old school 6v6 Brawl comp, where she could run it down mid with Reaper and just take over games? So Mei is very, very good. Again, the weaker breakpoints for tanks, she does a great job of poking them out, forcing them into awkward spaces, then utilizing that to your advantage by walling them off, setting up your team. She has great matchups into characters like Genji, who are very popular. She's really not that bad in taking some poke duels with Sojourn and even Freya, although she's not the best at it, but she definitely can stand her own ground with that 300 HP. She's got really nice perks. She's got like variety in her build, the way you want to take her with the perks. She fits into a very strong Brawl comp, and with there being so many new Brawl tanks, Mei is just always a safe character to pick up, in my opinion. Moving on over to Mercy. Low-key, Mercy is kind of B tier in 6v6, but not 5v5. This is actually something I've been talking about with a lot of Mercy creators behind the scene. There's a video that I'm working on. Hopefully, if everything works out, we can get it out. I have a very esteemed Mercy content creator that I might bring onto the channel. We'll have a discussion about the character. But we were both of the consensus that in 6v6 she feels a lot better because again, what that off tank, that second tank brings to the table allows for and again the smaller HP pools with the 60 healing per second on Mercy. This is as close as she's ever gotten to being her original Valk self. Now she's not like all the way there because a lot of stuff is missing, but the healing numbers on Mercy, for what it is worth, is actually very, very strong. She's able to utilize a lot of different strengths because there's a second tank healing, and in this mode, because one quote-unquote main healer can just farm healing off of the two tanks really well, she can really use her damage boost to enable DPS and just have that DPS take over a lobby, because tanks cannot just survive the onslaught of damage for free if they choose to commit to taking a duel with a damage boosted Genji, Pharah, Ashe, Freya, Cass, list goes on, Sojourn, right? So that's just my opinion. I think Mercy is actually B tier. I put her in C tier in the 5v5 tier list, but I think in 6v6 she actually goes up a little bit. She's relatively not that bad in 6v6, but 5v5 Mercy problems are very ridiculous, and you know there's a full systematic and there's a full philosophy shift in the way Mercy works in 5v5. Of course, her gameplay doesn't necessarily reflect that because it's so straightforward in the way that it like reflects itself on the screen. But in order to maximize value on the character, the way you play her in 5v5 and 6v6 is drastically different, right? So, in my opinion, Mercy, B tier in 6v6. Moira, actually, pretty same, B tier. I think Moira is definitely stronger in 5v5. But I think in 6v6 she's no slouch either. Again, same strengths, tanks are much weaker, she can contest them much better, she can help the team much better. Her DPS playstyle is a lot better with the dive comp in 6v6. Because you can just enable it with damage orb and run it down mid with them. You can flank, and while you can do that in 5v5 as well, again, there is sometimes where it sucks to take the aggressive angles with Moira, because again, the second tank will provide the peel and it will be annoying you. Sometimes you have to play with your team, but with the smaller breakpoints and everything, dueling is much easier, and your ult will tend to get more value because the super tank is not going to survive the damage from your team and your ultimate once you do throw that coalescence down main. Right, moving on over to Orisa. I think Orisa is S tier now in 5v5, and as much as I hate to say it, I think the character is also S tier in 6v6. We have a rant video coming up for Orisa. I'm going to leave it at that. I don't want to talk about this character here. I will sour my mood. I just came home from work. I'm in a better mood. So we're not going to talk about Orisa. We're going to have a nice day and continue. Wrecking Ball, pretty much server admin level. The nerfs are okay. You can definitely contest them a lot more. But in the hands of the right person, Wrecking Ball is still very strong. I still ban him a lot. I can't handle this character because Sombra is almost always a permaban. A good Wrecking Ball will just make your life a living hell, and it just takes him no amount of, it's just his own individual gameplay, needs no setup, he just does everything by himself. He can get so much value. He's bound to catch at least 2 people with how clumped up 6v6 can be with his minefield if he goes for the combo. So a very strong character right now. Moving on over to Pharah, again another character in the A tier. Pharah, very damn strong, especially if Mercy's there, goes up all the way to S tier. And if you have control over the hero bans and your team is willing to help you out, and you ban out key hit scans from countering the Pharah, it is over for that lobby. It is Pharah's game, and there's no choice for the enemy either to mirror the Pharah or to bring out an Echo and take that mid-air duel, or hopefully pray to God that Sojourn, Freya, or maybe even sometimes a Genji can duel you in that mid-air space if you're close by. But Pharah, very, very strong in my opinion. You can never go wrong with Pharah. She's okay. I would say she's B tier in 5v5, but in 6v6, again, the tank health pools being a little bit more relative to the rest of the roster makes a big difference for her breakpoints and how she's interacting and how she can play. You can play Pharah very aggressively in 6v6. You cannot play Pharah that aggressive in 5v5 because of how much easier it can be to be punished. So again, my opinion, just my thing, my take, Pharah, A tier pick, thumbs up. Highly recommend to a lot of people out there, learn this character. She's very, very good, okay? Reaper, again, A tier pick. I think a lot of people are still sleeping on Reaper. He even saw some play in the OWCS just a night or two ago. and the character is pretty damn good. Like, I feel like Reaper's one of those characters that because of how much powerful other things are, people are just kind of in a vacuum, forget there's other things that are strong too. And while Reaper is not on the power level of some of the more meta DPS right now, he definitely has a place of just helping the brawl melt the other tank and hopefully walk in and destroy the enemy backline. So you can also play him as a soft budget flanker. It's not that bad, but you have to be a little bit more aware of when you can and cannot do these things. Reinhardt, borderline A tier character. I think he's definitely S tier in 5v5 because of all the armor and shit he's got on him, but in A tier is a lot more punishable. We're gonna speed through some of the stuff now. Roadhog, A tier character. Think he's actually very good, not that bad. Just the plane, not the pilot. You definitely have to know when to swap off this character. Doesn't matter whether you play him in 6v6 or 5v5. However, I don't think he's in a position where I would say that if you have, like, for example, a Zarya getting a lot of charge from you basically feeding or absorbing cooldowns and resources, then you can definitely make things work. Also, Sigma Hog is never a bad comp to have either, so you know, it's pretty good. Speaking of Sigma, again, A tier character. We've spoken about Sigma a million times. Don't think I need to explain why he's in the A tier. Sojourn is our first S tier DPS character. Do I really need to explain after all this time? You've been traumatized by her. I've been traumatized by her. Sojourn just needs to have that perk nerf. That one perk where her ultimate gets out of control, it really needs to go down. I think that truly is the only problem with Sojourn. We'll get to Freya in just a moment. We'll definitely get there. Soldier 76 surprisingly is a lot better than I would expected him to be in 6v6. Again, like, one of the biggest problems with Soldier is he just cannot fight super tanks. So if that Diva Winston jumps on you, is basically GG's, especially if there's a follow from another dive character. But with the super tanks being a lot more weaker, sorry, if the tanks actually being normal tanks now, being much weaker than their 5v5 counterparts, not only is it easier to contest and pressure them, but it's also much easier to take over games because your breakpoints are just much better and flowing much better against those two tanks to keep them off of you and maintain your angles the way you would like to. A tier character, don't really think he's B tier. Honestly, I think he's pretty solid and you can make him work as long as you understand that you're good at, you know, tracing other characters and you work on your aim, and just is honestly a solid character. Maybe I want to put him in B, but I don't think he's that bad. I think he's actually A tier in 6v6. Sombra, okay, I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna drop her in D tier simply because I have not gotten a chance to play a single game of Sombra in 6v6. So I'm not even gonna try and pretend I know where to put her. To anybody who has gotten the chance to play with against the Sombra in 6v6, please let us know down below how is Sombra in 6v6, because I sadly have not gotten the chance to play her in 6v6 at all. I played her a bit in my 5v5 journey to top 500, but I've not played her at all in the 6v6 game mode. So please let me know, what do you think of Sombra? I'm assuming she's at least B to A tier character. She'll be very lethal. She is very disruptive against the tanks, but I don't know. I don't want to speak out my ass. I tend to speak out my ass for a lot of things 99% of the time. I'm sure some of you are making fun of me for my takes, but I will be fair to Sombra and say that I didn't get to play her, so I'm not going to sit here and commentate on her. Symmetra, I think, is actually low-key A tier character. I've never realized how strong her perks have been. And on her maps, on King of the Hill, usually that's where you want to play her, and some payload maps, Symmetra, in the right circumstances, is a monster. Especially if you're running against the double shield comps. Somehow, if they pop up, you got the Sigma barrier, you got the Ryan barrier, you got the Ramatra barrier somehow, you know, sometimes a Winston barrier. You can just charge yourself up. You got the perks online. Your beam is like a sniper rifle now. You are melting people from across the map while being pocketed by somebody on your team, and there's nothing they can do about it. Symmetra, when she takes over a lobby, it is insane. Okay, I think Symmetra is a character we're also a little bit sleeping on. Again, once more, before we proceed with the tier list, as always, a disclaimer: this is not looking at pro play because there is none for 6v6 thumbs up. This is just looking at the state of ranked. Ranked is a huge mess, so a lot of these are, take this with a grain of salt because these are from my experiences, and for what it's worth, I have played almost all the characters here. Any character that I have not played, I will let you know. Like Sombra, I didn't get the chance to play her. Torbjorn is insane in 6v6. He is already borderline broken in 5v5, but I actually think he's even worse in 6v6, and this character needs to be nerfed. Again, I'll probably dig deeper into him in a nerf Torb rant video because it is coming. I cannot understand how this character is still so strong. You would think in 6v6 he wouldn't be that good, and I assumed that as well. That, oh, with two tanks you can do this, this, and this. No. Turns out that Torbjorn can just evaporate those two tanks with his own tanks, and just it's absurd. The comps I've seen, the comps I've played against, and mostly it's people stacking in the 6v6 open queue to get better, you know, like, so everybody has roles they can fit and everything. So there's a bit of coordination going on. My goodness, I think Torb is strong. I'm gonna say it. I think Torb is S tier. I think he's S tier in 5v5. I think he's S tier in 6v6. He's so good. I think he's so good in this. Like, the only thing that really holds him back is if Freya, Sojourn, or Fire in the lobby, or a good Hanzo, then Torbjorn cannot play the game. But a good Torbjorn can make everybody else's life a living hell because he will know how to use his equipment at the right time and not just like throw it up randomly. So I will dig deeper into Torb in a rant video. For now, take my word, this character is absolutely stupid and needs to be nerfed. Tracer, S tier. Tracer's always been S tier. She's always going to be S tier. Maybe A tier in the worst circumstances, but that's about it. I'm just going to safely drop her in S tier. She's a great duelist. She's very, very good. Very high carry potential 6v6. The bomb radius perk is so nice on 2 tanks because you're almost always guaranteed to get both of them either eliminated or low. And then you just take over the lobby from there with you, your tanks, and your other DPS. Widowmaker S tier character, I don't think I need to like sit you guys through a 950-second lecture on why Widowmaker is good. Winston, surprisingly, S tier in my opinion. Very good tank, works with a lot of tanks, has very good survivability if you aren't an idiot feeding by standing in main and taking like 6 people shooting at you. Zarya, think she's an S tier tank. Maybe A tier if I'm like not trying to... Okay, you know what? No. I think she's A tier. I think like only having one bubble pushes us down to about max A tier or maybe even B tier. But there's moments where if a Zarya is charged up and she's very good, she has good synergy with the other tank, and there's a lot of brawl tanks she can work with now. She's S tier character, very strong, right? Moving on over to Zenyatta, A tier character, very good in the right hands, very bad in the wrong hands. Watch your positioning and you'll get value from the character. Do know when to swap off if your team needs more healing and sustain. Ramatra, same case, same scenario. His brother-in-law, brother in crime, brother in religion, I don't know what way you want to see it. Ramatra is a very strong brawl tank. He's very, very good, very versatile. He's poke, he's got brawl, he's very nice to play. You can block bot with him if you just need to create space and hold that space for your team to hopefully find an angle to punish the enemy. I don't really think there's anything bad to say with him. He has great synergy with a lot of the other tanks in the game as well. So pretty solid tank, honestly, A tier. Life Fever, I think he's okay. I think he's B tier, honestly. Don't really mind Life Fever, honestly. I think he's okay in both game modes. I think he's B tier at best in both game modes. Like, he doesn't really go anywhere above or below that, but a very good Life Fever that has really good control of his ultimate and movement. My god, they are very hard to deal with. 𝐒𝐈𝐈, my goodness, man, this character needs a lot of help. However, I don't know. Like, 𝐒𝐈𝐈 is one of them that I actually think, like, both 5v5, 6v6, 𝐒𝐈𝐈 is very rough. She has it a lot worse in 6v6 because of there being double resources from tanks to deal with her ultimate and a lot of her poke and deny her value. That 𝐒𝐈𝐈 is just, guys, I gotta do her justice. Like, she's my favorite support. I hate Pylon just like everybody else, but the rest of her kit, I really like her, and she's in an absolutely garbage spot. So 𝐒𝐈𝐈 sadly will be the worst character in the game in my opinion. She does not have an identity that she can play into and excel at. There's nothing going on for her. Be fair to this character for once if you have some hatred for her. I understand. I hate Pylon. I hate Pylon allowing her to do the stupid shit that I did when she was meta. I didn't like playing her like that. I want her to be her own character that can lean into some really unique mechanics. That's for another video. We'll get to 𝐒𝐈𝐈 over there, but right now I think 𝐒𝐈𝐈 is by far one of the worst characters in the game. It's crazy how when she came out, she replaced Zenyatta, but now Zen's back to replacing her. Funny how the world works. Mauga, A tier, very strong. He's very good in 6v6. Even though the nerfs and the changes they gave, he's just solid. Guys, there's so many characters in A tier because there's a lot of them are just strong. It comes down to the plane and the pilot and also the team composition and the map. So yeah, Venture, same thing. I actually think Venture's very damn strong in 6v6. Juno, okay, Juno's weird because I actually don't know. I'm gonna keep it real with you guys. I kind of want to put Juno as the, like, if there was A minus S, oh sorry, A plus S minus, Juno probably goes there. Juno, I'm a little bit weird on. Juno, I'm not sure. So Juno, she's very strong. She's really good in 6v6. I really love playing. I just borderline love playing like Juno because she's just like a more. Like it's like if you could have Anna's kit swap to more mobile playstyle, enabling speed rather than aggression, then that's Juno to me. So I don't know. I like Juno. I like where she is, but 2 tanks can really screw with her. I'm not gonna lie. Like 2 tanks really can ruin the value that your right clicks are meant to bring. But in the right circumstances, here's the thing. Okay, this is why I might put Juno in S tier. Juno can target one more player on both sides with her lock-on, and her perk will allow the cooldown to drop to nearly 0 seconds. So you have, if you're smart and you know what you're doing, you can have almost permanent uptime on your torpedoes. Right? At least 2 torpedo cooldown rotations will be 2 seconds apart, and you will secure 1 or 2 kills off of it. I've seen this happen I've been on the receiving end of this. I've seen it happen by our Juno player doing it, where Eevee did it, and oh my god, it's scary as hell. Okay, so Juno, don't sleep on her. I just for that alone, I will put it in the S tier. Hazard, again, solid 8-tier tank. Don't think he's bad. Don't think he's pretty strong actually. You have to be good on Hazard. Hazard is one of those things where it's like you have to be good. You have to understand how your other tank wants to play. I think Hazard plays a little bit more of an off-tank playstyle, which I kind of like, because I've always seen him as a little bit more of an off-tank rather than main tank. So he's pretty solid, honestly. He's an 8-tier character. Freya, oh, this is rough. This is really rough, because I know people are gonna come for my throat. Because I put Freya in A tier. I think again A minus, S plus, but low key, the problem with Freya, okay, we're gonna talk about it in tomorrow's video. Problem with Freya is she's completely reliant on take aim. If you take that away, this character has nothing. She doesn't have a strong ultimate. She doesn't have a strong primary fire. So when we approach nerfing her, we're going to talk about this tomorrow, nerf Freya. I have a lot of things to say. I love this character. She's pretty much been everything I've wanted in the poke projectile DPS personally. Okay, and I want to be fair in the way that we can change her so that, like, while there will be a power shift to remove her oppressive playstyle, because guys, I'm going to keep it real, the 130 body shot is stupid, because Dragon Blade does 110 damage, and this character can have a neutral that does 130 consistently with almost no downtime. Like, what are we doing here, Blizzard? So, Freya, despite all of that, I think a character being extremely reliant on that one part of their kit and the rest of the kit being absolute garbage, or being the character just falling apart, that is going to be the reason I will put them in A tier. I hope you understand that we do consider like the rest of the kit and the perks and how they all line up. And yes, Freya is strong in coordinated environments and everything. She can completely take over games and server lobby. But you know what? I will put her in S tier. Okay, I'll keep her in A tier because super tanks have a better chance of surviving and dueling her in 5v5. I will say, as somebody with experience, because I play Freya, yeah, I can't deny, bro, you can just demolish tanks on this character. You can make it so easy for your tanks to steamroll games and everything. She's absurd. So you know what, we'll put her in the S tier. So that is it for the tier list, everybody. What are your thoughts? Let me know down in the comments below. Tomorrow's video is nerf Freya. We need to talk about Freya's problems, how to help improve her, and still have a viable option for projectile DPS, because projectile DPS has not had a proper new viable hero since Echo. So with that being said, we'll see you in tomorrow's video.